All News 106.9 and AM 740. KCBS.
It's now time for Ask an Expert. Every weekday at 9:20 on KCBS, we give you direct access to top experts in various fields. And today, we break down a pair of federal immigration proposals that risk deepening the system's existing divide. One would require everyday travelers without U.S. citizenship to disclose years of social media activity for vetting by the government, as the government tries to root out, quote-unquote, anti-American bias. Meanwhile, the quote-unquote Trump Gold Card visa is promising fast-track residency to anyone meeting its $1 million price tag. To help us understand this and more of the two-tiered immigration system, we're joined live on the KCBS Ring Central Newsline by Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. She is an immigration attorney, managing partner of Lincoln-Goldfinch Law in Austin, Texas. Thanks so much for joining us on KCBS.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So first of all, explain this social media vetting that the government says it's going to do. How would it work?
So we have a proposed regulation that applies to people coming in on the visa-waiver program. That's 42 countries that tend to have low immigration violations. So think, a lot of European countries. These folks can come in without having to apply for a visa. And the Trump administration has said that now part of the application for the visa waiver will be a five-year review of social media, which raises obvious logistical and data privacy concerns for these applicants.
And what is it that they're after? I mean, it's the statement from the administration is anti-American bias.
That part is certainly less clear, and we have to go by what we've seen from the Trump administration. We've certainly seen them go after people who attack the Trump administration, speak out against human rights abuses, definitely some of the college protesters, specifically around the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Those tend to be high issues for them. But I do think political speech against the administration would be considered anti-American based on some of their previous, patterns and assessments.
So remind us about the First Amendment when it comes to non-citizens. Do non-citizens have free speech protections that would carry over to social media posts?
Yes, non-citizens are protected by the Constitution once they're in the country. The limitation here is that there are fewer constitutional protections at the border or at the airport upon entry. And since these are folks who are applying for admission to come into the country, a lot of the constitutional protections won't apply, and there is a lot of power and authority in the hands of the administration and the CBP agents. And so I think we might tend to see some abuses and denials, and there will probably be some litigation around all of this, but, constitutional protections are not the same at the airport as they apply to immigrants than they are inside the country.
Okay, that was my next question. Do you expect this to be taken to court at some point? But let's switch gears now and talk about the gold card. I believe it's called the Trump Gold Card, and I'm just going to check my notes. Yes, the Trump Gold Card. And this would fast track anyone willing to pay $1 million. What do we know about this proposal?
It has been launched. There are serious concerns about this as well. It bypassed congressional approval. There's obvious corruption concerns when you think about who would be coming in and paying this amount of money to fast track. It's going to be the foreign oligarchs, some of these folks who are already doing surreptitious deals with the administration, presumably. This is a program that has someone pay in what they're calling a gift to the American government. It's not an investment. There is no requirement, as there are in other investment visas, that it create jobs or that it boosts the economy or anything like that. So there's none of that at play with the gold card. So the corruption issues exist, but the other issues are that this doesn't prioritize American, innovation or economy or family reunification, which is really what we focus on most in our immigration system. Our immigration system, ever since the civil rights era, has prioritized family unity. And of course, this doesn't have anything to do with family unity. So it's taking places of people who might otherwise, have been waiting in line or be eligible to immigrate. So there's just a lot of concerns, but I would say the primary concern about this gold card is about corruption and what is being traded to give people this type of access.
I feel like we ask this question a lot, but does the president have the power to simply create this new visa category without any approval from Congress?
No. This one I think will face federal litigation challenges. And, the problem now is that, no, it's not legal. And does that mean the courts are going to enforce that? I mean, here we have, the Supreme Court taking cert on the question of birthright citizenship. I mean, it's just, we're living in the upside down world right now, even with the federal court system. And so, no, the president should not be able to do something like this, but he is doing it. And will the court stop him is not certain.
You are listening to Ask an Expert on KCBS, and today we're breaking down two of the government's latest immigration proposals. If you have a question, please send it our way. The email address is askus@kcbsradio.com, askus@kcbsradio.com. And we're speaking with Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. She is an immigration attorney and managing partner at Lincoln-Goldfinch Law Firm in Austin, Texas. So the big picture question here is, when you look at these two policy proposals side by side, and again, we want to make sure it's clear, these are not enacted yet, these are proposals, sensitive screening for travelers, and then fast-track entry for presumably the wealthy. What larger direction do you see the U.S. immigration policy moving in? What does this mean for international workers and or permanent non-citizens?
Well, I mean, the gold card has been launched. The review of social media on visa waiver is a proposed regulation. We're in the 60-day notice and comment period. But overall, what is happening under the Trump administration is definitely increased surveillance and data sharing so that a lot of the federal agencies are now connected to each other. So IRS, TSA, people who are flying domestically who go through TSA are now being reviewed by immigration. So there's just a lot of heightened surveillance occurring, with facial recognition, biometrics, automatic license plate readers, the flock cameras, all that data is being gathered and shared with law enforcement about people. And of course, that's starting with immigration and immigration enforcement and a crackdown on immigration, but it doesn't take too much of a stretch of the imagination to think, what happens next. So overall, it's a restriction on traditional methods of immigrating, kicking as many people out of the country, and then turning to only let in wealthy people as opposed to skilled workers.
All right, we have some listener questions here. Dean asks, with the World Cup coming to the U.S. in just a few months, millions more travelers will arrive at our borders. If this rule were implemented as proposed, what real-world delays or complications should travelers expect?
We should expect complications at the border and at the airport, both in and out. So if this rule goes into effect, it means that all the visa waiver entrants are going to be going through heightened scrutiny that, of course, will take more time at the airport. So that will delay the entry. We also know that they are starting to do facial recognition upon exiting of immigrants. So people departing the country are also going to be probably facing delays and in some cases even detentions. I mean, they have announced a project called I think it's Operation Irish Goodbye, where they're actually going to be looking to detain people who are trying to self-deport in the airports, which is just, it's unimaginable cruelty. But the in and out at the airports is definitely going to become more delayed, logistically complicated, and fraught with, potential human rights abuses for immigrants.
Is there any equivalent to the Trump gold card in other countries? And how would other countries respond if the U.S. starts making this available?
So I've looked into this a little bit. I haven't done a deep dive on it, but as far as I can tell, a few other countries have had programs like this and have actually revoked them because corruption was so rampant. So it has not gone well in other countries. And, I think corruption is definitely something that we see within the Trump administration, and they don't seem to be, concerned about the appearance of corruption. And so that's, they're just driving forward with it here in the U.S.
But that has been a problem when other countries have tried something similar, not surprisingly.
Absolutely.
So we have a question from KCBS listener Robert. Are there any clear indicators of the impact of Trump immigration crackdown on the economy? And conversely, what economic impact might the new gold-plated visas have?
Yeah, we do have a pretty significant impact going on. There's a lot of data and statistics around this. If you look at, just tourism overall, foreign student registration nationwide is down by 17%. That, of course, impacts our universities. All those foreign students who would have graduated and gotten jobs will no longer be in this country, so there's a real long-term impact. We started with a downturn in agriculture. So we've got, in the Department of Labor's own words, shock-induced food shortages due to immigration enforcement. We've got construction down 30% in Texas because of immigration enforcement. The medical field is being impacted. One of the main areas that gets impacted that isn't talked about a lot is care for the elderly. Half of our home health care workers in the state of Texas, where I live, are immigrants. So there's a lot of impact going on in the medical and the care for the elderly field. And then, of course, in tech and innovation, engineering, advancement, all the STEM fields, when we have things like the $100,000 fee on the H-1B visas, there's a real crackdown. So it's really in every sector we are already starting to see impacts. And to your question about the gold card and the economic impact, the truth is I don't think that will have much of an impact. I mean, the number of people who will come under that visa is very limited. And we've had an investor visa, sometimes colloquially referred to as the millionaire's visa, that requires a $500,000 investment into United States infrastructure. And annually there are fewer than 8,000 people who come in on that program just because it costs so much. There's just limited people who apply for that. So that's going to be the same. I think this gold visa is not actually going to have that much of an impact. We're not going to have that many people coming in, but we will hear a lot of people talking about it, of course.
We are speaking with our Ask an Expert guest today, Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. She is an immigration attorney in Texas. And I think we have time for one more question before we let you go. When it comes to, we have a new question coming in, and here it is. Eric, KCBS listener Eric. Some visa programs within the U.S. have publicly available data on them, like H-1Bs, with company and salary information. Would the Trump Gold Card have any public transparency? Good question.
I would almost certainly, it's a great question, and I would say almost certainly not. Absolutely not. I mean, I cannot even imagine a world in which they would.
How much is roughly, or on average, how much is an H-1B visa?
$5,000. Between $5,000 and $10,000. Yeah, not much.
I'm guessing that a company wouldn't say, hey, let's just pay for the $1 million gold visa and get our workers in that way. That would be way too expensive. No,
the people who are going to access this program are the foreign oligarchs who want to do backdoor deals. They don't want to wait in line or have anything, on somebody's roster. This is going to be a program for very wealthy people who are secretive.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see how this all shakes out. Thank you so much for your time. This has been an education. We have been speaking with Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. She is an immigration attorney at Lincoln-Goldfinch Law in Austin, Texas. Happy holidays.